All right, we are joined by Foolish Bailey. You may know him as Foolish Baseball, the king of Atlanta. You and Peter Moylan have kind of taken that city by storm. What's going on, Bailey?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, we talk about the Mount Rushmore of people in Atlanta, it's probably like, Andre 3000, Usher, Peter Moylan, and myself. I think that's just how I'd sum it up.
I was going to think of if you four were at a bar in Buckhead, I mean, that place is nuts.
It is nuts. That is one of the most bizarre places on the planet. The vibes there, I would say for the most part, are awful,
Right.
but then it can reach a point where it becomes so awful it's interesting.
that's kind of Wake and Jake's theme too. Bailey, how you doing, dude? It's been a minute. You are Wake and Jake regular. You went through the grind of another baseball season. Congratulations. And I want to talk to you for a little bit, and we got some general baseball stuff, and then we'll do Fangraphs did their free agent projected AAVs and stuff like that, and we'll do some over-unders and maybe a couple guys we like or dislike after this.
Boo!
Boo! Don't sign. Dude, how was the year for you? I mean, this was we were just kind of recapping everything because we get lost in the sauce, and going back a year now, we weren't in this office yet. We were like half of our employees did not work here. Baby Jimmy's baby, just turned 1, so like he didn't.
Incredible.
His baseball didn't exist. Shout out. So I don't know. Like a year later, fear of the lockout to start the year to now. How is this baseball year for you?
Yeah, I guess maybe we should start with the lockout because it was just. We played 162 games this year, played a pretty normal playoff format. Like everything went really smoothly on that front, even though, around this time last year, we weren't sure about that at all. It was a good year to be Foolish Baseball. I don't know how else to put it. I'm glad I'm Foolish Baseball and not someone else. And even though, we got another, pretty good season under our belts as content creators, I really feel like 2023 could be an even bigger year for us. I think some of those rule changes coming to MLB are going to reintroduce a lot of fans to the game. I really think some of these things like pitch clock have a lot of potential.
Yeah, it's funny. I tweeted out last night that we were talking, and man, the people love us. And yeah, I saw a couple people comment on the rules, and for me, that's one of those things that it comes up so intermittently during the season that I feel like I talk about it a ton. But yeah, I don't know. The pitch clock, I'm interested to see how it actually looks. I think my generic baseball person take is it's going to be good. I just hope that we're not in an 8th inning of a tight game and we're really thinking about stuff, and then we've got the over anxious ump that takes it too far. But that with the no shifts, man, that I hope that's massive. I hope that has the impact that we're hoping, and I hope I don't turn on a May baseball game next year and the Rays have like their right fielder playing a deep second base and their center fielder is behind him and there's nobody in left field. And as I say that, I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. But I guess the rule changes in general, where are you at? Because I also got a good laugh. John Smoltz on one of the playoff broadcasts, they asked him, they said, John, what do you think about the upcoming changes? He goes, I love all of them. And that's all he had to say. So if that is also your feedback, then perfect.
That's incredible because, I mean, John Smoltz, that guy just does not stop talking if you watch the broadcast. So if he had a 3-word answer to a question, like that says a lot. I love the pitch clock. I really think it's going to be a total game changer. I have almost nothing but positive things to say about it. If you go to enough, pitch clock baseball games, whether it's at spring training or minor leagues or college, I think you'll probably come to the same conclusion. But shift, I'm a little ambivalent.
Okay.
My fear is that, okay, so who are we protecting with banning the shift? And that's kind of like the lefty pull hitter, right? Yeah. That's sort of the archetype. This is a Joey Gallo who's trying to basically hit the ball over the infield, for a home run. And I think maybe just by actually limiting / banning the shift, however you want to put it, you may actually just be encouraging those types of players to double down, and it might not actually have the intended effect of lowering the a 3 true outcome rate or like incentivizing a ball in play. So I'm not really sure about the shift ban, but I also don't think it's going to make as much of a difference as people think either way. And then the big bases, that to me is like the wild card. Like if that just revitalizes the run game, I think that would just be really incredible.
Yeah, that would be nuts. I for me, it's hard to wrap my head around, because what, it's two extra inches on each base, so you're getting. I mean, you, me, and BBD all started smirking at each other.
Yes.
If that's the difference in baseball, then like, I don't know, like roll my eyes emoji, I guess, because if that's really the difference, yet there's so many bang bang plays, and I don't know if you could get an extra 2 inches on your lead, and you only have to go 2 inches further to the bag. I think with that, with the shifts having more athletic defensive players, like I still remember. And this isn't a shot because we met this guy. He's super nice. Malibu Mike Moustakas. When he got signed as the Cincinnati Reds second baseman, I think everyone was just kind of like, hold up. Like, I think we may have taken it a step too far. That hopefully we're getting more athletic defenders, which means more athletic base runners, which means just more action in general with that the pitch clock. The formula is there for baseball to kind of take a next step. I don't know.
Yeah, I really do think so. I think this is going to be just a net positive for like the fan experience in most cases.
Where are you at with your Braves? You are a Braves fan. They hunted down the Mets. Braves country. You, Outcast, Peter Moylan were feeling pretty good, and then those Phillies got hot. Is it? I mean, are we going full small sample? Are we going some of the flaws on this team? Is it really hard to repeat in baseball? Where did you end up landing on this Brave season?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, it's still inhaling the small sample copium. But I think really for me, what it comes down to is like, man, when you watch, and it's been a while for you Yankees fans out there, but like when you watch your team win the World Series, when that's what you wanted like all your life, I do think it does kind of fundamentally alter the fan experience. And at least in like the next few years, I become a little, blasé about like their overall result. And I think what was good about this year is the Mets emerged as true contenders and for, to be maybe a top team in the National League. And I think that gave both myself as a fan and the Braves something to really gun for. They had to show, who's big bro, little bro here. And Braves ended up winning the division. I thought that was great. I was there for what was the last game of the series versus the Mets at the end of the year. It was great. And then as far as just not winning the playoffs, I mean, that's kind of the status quo for me as a Braves fan. They get to the playoffs and then they lose. Really happy for the Phils. I thought they made a great run at it, but am I heartbroken about what happened this season? No, because I think the World Series win last year kind of takes the sting out of it.
The fact they still hunted down the Mets like that, and that Sunday night game was the game you were at.
Yes.
What was that? Bassett.
That was Bassett. And I think Morton.
Yes. That was insane, and they that organization, man, it's unreal. And there's obviously a little bit of Yankee envy from the World Series, and just their youth. I mean, Ronald Acuna Jr. turning into the old man on the block next to Michael Harris and Vaughn Grisham. Like it's just nuts what they're doing and what's coming out of there. Do you have a Braves wish list for this offseason yet?
I do think the outfield would probably be the area that needs, the most addressing. If you have, if you're assuming Harris in center and Acuna in right for the most part, I just think, there's another bat they could get there in the outfield, maybe a lefty. But I mean, it's tough. It's tough to wish list this team because they look pretty complete,
They're good, man.
Yeah.
Like top to bottom. And it's funny because right now on Fangraphs, they have they have all the free agents not on the roster. So even, a guy like Anthony Rizzo, who's got a good chance to return to the Yankees if things go right, or, right now the Yankees lineup does not have Aaron Judge. It does not have Rizzo.
Right.
It looks like a slightly skeleton roster. The Braves, with that same effect, I mean, basically Dansby's out, which would be significant, and
Would be.
What do you think happens there? Because they locked everyone else up, and it's a big free agent class. Do we think they're in love with Dansby? They're in lust with Dansby? Would they? I mean, are they just going to play value? And if like another Correa 1 year situation happens, do you have any leans on the Braves shortstop situation?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we kind of learned it last year, right? Like the Braves organization are not sentimental, and I think it's gonna be, if they re-sign Dansby Swanson, it's purely gonna be a value proposition. It's not gonna be about, oh, we're locking up, the hometown kid who, honestly, since Freeman's departure has become one of the most prominent faces that people associate with the Braves. But I don't, and I think for Dansby, there's probably a lot of like willingness to want to re-sign with the Braves. I think he's made it pretty clear that that he'd like to stay in Atlanta, close to where he grew up. But as far as how it's going to go down, like it would not surprise me at all if the Braves just kind of lowballed him, and then we got into another sort of Freddie Freeman situation. Then he went elsewhere where he felt more valued monetarily, at least. And you've said it yourself, but I mean, the emergence of Vaughn Grissom does at least give them somewhat of a backup plan at that position that they wouldn't have had, or that you wouldn't have anticipated them having, a year ago.
And I mean, a perk of being a Braves fan right now, or an Astros fan, or Dodgers. I was going to say Dodgers to an extent, which is so obnoxious, but you have to trust like the front office at this point. Like,
right.
how much do we talk about, Correa, and look where we ended up a year later. Like Peña's the most lovable dude in the world. Like him and Dusty Baker were this like anti-poison pill to the Astros organization that are just like, oh, these are the coolest guys ever. And now they have another 25-year-old shortstop who won the Gold Glove, won World Series and CS MVP.
Yeah,
it's disgusting.
I would even, I mean, Springer left, and then they went through like Miles Straw and Jose Siri, and then they landed on Chas McCormick just because they just develop good baseball players. They don't have to be superstars, but they're good baseball players.
Right. You're talking about 3 starting AL center fielders to end the season. That 2 of them, they were like, oh well, we can move on.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
They're and I think this will be a fun question for you, Bailey, because we stumbled into this on the live stream, and then we did it on Talking Baseball a little bit. The Astros, they are a wagon. They have been 6 straight ALCSs. Just seems like everything they do organizationally is to another level. Who do you think can be the next AL true challenger? And again, like it's an obnoxious question because the Phillies came out of the NL this year, and that the 88 win White Sox could do that next year. But who can actually kind of go toe to toe with Houston?
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be immediately next year, but in terms of the team that is on the incline right now, I would probably have to say the Seattle Mariners are a team I would heavily consider for that. I really just think when you look at their farm system, they have a lot of guys who can contribute, in these coming years that haven't even really made a big league impact yet. So it's just incredible to think, they did get swept by the Astros, but like all those games were close. Like, it was one of those, it reminded me a little bit of like this is a weird pull, 2005 World Series, White Sox swept, but all the games were extremely close. And so you could argue, well, that was actually a pretty close series if you have a few things go, different ways. So I really like where the Mariners are at. I think guys like, you don't want to face prime George Kirby and Logan Gilbert in a short series. That those guys are studs. You don't want to face Luis Castillo, who's now, locked in for them. Like the Mariners are a team that I would fear in the playoffs for the coming years for sure.
Joe Creedy picking it on the hot corner for those Bobby Jenks coming out of the bullpen. I did. There were a bunch of tweets, and part of me loves it, but it's Lebitard's thing. Some people wanted us to just read old baseball names, and I thought that would be a good like baseball ASMR almost. If we were just like Tommaso Marte and just whispering, and I just clicked on that 2005 World Series, but we can't take that. I think that's already been taken.
I think that's the last 2 episodes we did with Bailey anyway.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, that's true.
And we'll do it again.
And we will do it again. And we'll have to sneak another draft another time on something good, but not for now. I guess kind of closing up on this last year, before we move on to kind of the Fangraphs projected free agents and doing a little over under on that. I guess what else from this season, whether it was a player or something you saw around baseball, I guess as you look back on the 2022 season now, what's something that kind of left its mark on you? And I'm laughing now because someone broke the home run record this year, so maybe we'll leave that out. But I guess you observing baseball the way you observe baseball, looking back now, what do you see?
I think we're seeing a little bit of a regression of some of the trends that we feared, as the direction baseball was going. This is the second year in a row we've seen an actual decrease in 3 true outcome baseball. In the playoffs this year, it felt like starting pitcher as a role was important.
Yeah.
It's just not every game did not feel like a bullpen game. And so, if I had to give like a generic sort of umbrella takeaway, it's that maybe, if you thought baseball was trending a certain direction, whether you liked it or not, it's actually not as far gone as we thought it was maybe a couple years ago.
Yeah, I think, and I was glad that you countered it a little bit, but the shift, and I got to give Jimmy credit more so than me, but his whole thing was, in baseball, everyone's always like, the game adjusts and it comes back and you counterpunch. The shift, it wasn't countering. Guys were trying to hit home runs, and the Rizzos or other kind of those lefty power hitters that when they rolled over through that right base hole that was a base hit for years, those guys' batting averages were down. Again, I'm throwing fake numbers out there, but 30 points. Like Anthony Rizzo shouldn't be a 227 guy. At this point in his career, he's probably, a 250 type guy. And we'll see next year. But that was the only thing. And hey, maybe not having guys positioned up the middle will change it with that V. Maybe it won't affect it at all. But that was the only counter because you're right. I think everyone realized that the Rays model a little bit only works for them because they have so many pitchers. Like on a normal year, they're going through 15, 20 guys that they view outs, and let's get those outs. That these other organizations were, I think, burning out their pitching. And when you get those innings and you can limit them in your rotation, that makes your bullpen stronger. And hopefully people see Houston as they set the bar. They arguably had 7 starting pitchers? If they really needed it. And they almost had it's funny, I was going to say traditional, but it's traditional in the past 15 years. Like, they had their 3 relievers. Like, here's Abreu, Montero, Presley. If we get to the end of the game with these guys, that's our formula. And Ryan Stanek also had one of the best years we've seen a reliever have. And if we need him, we'll use him. And hopefully teams can kind of mimic that because they also, I say that like it's easy, but they clearly know what they're doing more or better than every other organization, man. It's insane.